Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to Gig. I'm your host, Mike Redman. Before we go any further, please like or follow this podcast so we can help as many musicians as possible. On Gig, I get to speak with a lot of very cool, very smart people. Once in a while, I meet somebody that the rapport is just instant. I'm sure you've had that experience where you meet somebody and you feel like you've known them forever. Well, Gooding's energy is infectious, his talent undeniable, as is his love for humanity and the animals of our planet. Today, I talk with Gooding, the artist, and Gooding, the businessman. I hope you enjoy this interview as much as I did. I usually start off my podcast before hitting the go button, explaining to my guests what to expect, etc. about the podcast. But today we just jumped right in, so we just let the digits roll. So here you go.
Hey, Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing good, and you Gooding?
Nice to meet you across the line, brother.
You too, man. So should I call you Gooding?
Believe it or not, yes.
Yes.
I was born Stephen Michael Gooding, but I've gone by Gooding forever. One of those things where the high school guys called each other by the last name, and I grew up with a lot of one-word named heroes, Bono and Sting and Prince, and I saw some
Yeah.
When I was 4 years old in Detroit, I saw that KISS logo coming at me and the superheroes. So I've always liked the, 7 letters door to door, Michael.
There you go, man. I love your, is this your studio? Obviously it is your studio.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I got the, I should have my logo lit up. I got the neon logo in the back.
Oh, look at that. It's a nice room.
It's a small, it's like a circus, there's small rooms. That's all a bunch of little ISO booth. I'll give you the nickel tour super quick. And then some more of the library, and then this kind of the writing area. I like to write away from the computer so I don't have a bazillion options.
Oh, well, you're the first to tell me that. Yeah.
Oh, really? Well, we'll get into all that stuff with this weird tour. But yeah, stuff I collect from the road. I got some print trays from the gas stations of America. I've been picking up stuff, and then coffee for the bands and whatnot. So yeah, it's soundproof. The family's upstairs, and then there's 2 sheds outside that are AC'd for band gear and merchandise for touring. So that's kind of the layout.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah,
you're a busy dude, man.
I got fancy problems. All those years. They say 20 years of overnight success. All those years of begging and saying yes to everything. Now you're like, oh no.
Yeah, you know what? But it sounds like you've got the energy to handle it. So that's all good.
Some days are better than others, but I appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you.
I love. Now I'm in Waynesville, North Carolina, up in the mountain.
You in NC? Okay.
Yeah.
I had you for PST. So do you go back and forth West Coast and out here?
No. I did live in Marin, just north of San Francisco, for about 8 years, and my other place is in Florida, but it's too hot. So we're at 3,000 feet. We went and walked today, and it was 66 degrees. It was just perfect. For my life, it was just perfect. It's these days it's that podcast, writing a novel, me and my Kemper here and my guitars.
Yes.
So yeah,
brother, talk about energy. Writing a novel alone. I remember for a while I was keeping up with the blog, and the amount people that don't write don't understand. I mean, I've always written songs, but the energy, the emotional capital. To show up every day and stare at that page is a beautiful, mystical thing. But I'm sure you heard Stephen King's On Writing. He's like, it's not mystical. We're doing the work. We're doing the work.
That's what the real authors actually do. Not me. I'm not one. I've written 3 nonfiction books. I wrote one about adoption in Ukraine. I wrote one about the music business, and one about the film business. And then I decided, I just want to tell a story, kind of a far out, crazy story, and include a lot of the people that have been in my life as characters. So I'm just having fun, man. We're just having fun. I want to jump into this. I usually count down.
No, I want to interview you, man. You're an interesting cat. And usually any friend of Adam's, man, Adam has an interesting crew of folks I've met over the years, man. Just always intelligent, thoughtful people. So I'm really excited. So you take me where you want to go, and I'll shut up and take time.
You know what I wanted to tell you in the beginning here, because I know that one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was funding the future. It's your, your charity and your passion. I wanted to ask you if we could come back, pretty soon, and do just a podcast talking about that.
Brother, I would love to, and I'm going to do my best not to naturally veer over into that on this wonderful.
Well, I'm going to bring you into it a little bit, but
we can talk about financial literacy from musicians and composers.
That's what I was going to. That was it. It was.
I would love to talk to you about that. And down the line, assuming I do what you need here and this goes good,
oh, get out of here!
I will hit you back. I will hit you back up about the. You mentioned a friend. Maybe I could send you just a quick.
Yes, we can do that. We can talk about that too.
Where they KPIs. I keep calling them the wrong. Key performance indicators. I can get you some numbers on what that charity's doing.
I know quite a bit about them. I started a thing called Give Back Live, and that's a different subject for a different day. But I just thought that we have 30 minutes, and I want to talk about getting the artist and some about the way that you make a living. And I didn't want to. I know that funding the future is a pretty big subject, and I want to just spend some time talking about it and the fact that I spend an awful lot of time coaching, and I spend an awful lot of time talking about multiple revenue streams and the fact that, I think every musician should be able to take a vacation, should have a family, should have a car, and so many of my friends, they still don't, So it's a different thing. But look, I want to start out. I did an intro before. I usually count down and start from zero, but we're already in it. So here we are. Good. You've written and produced and engineered over 20 solo albums, right? Over 120 albums for your music library, Kingdom 2. And so you're kind of at the top of the list of placements in TV, not to mention your endless dedication to financial literacy. It's exhausting when I think about it. So we're here today.
It's been many years. And I fell into financial literacy because I made all those mistakes. If you would have told me as a kid, watching Kiss concerts and listening to Motown records and my dad's, that I'd be talking about that, I'd be like, no.
Oh yeah. I can make it. And I don't know many guys that went into the music business that didn't at least think they were going to be a rock star. You got
to have delusions of grandeur to enter the insanity of this business, don't you?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, that's really true. So let's start with you, the artist. I mean, what drives you musically? I mean, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
What a wonderful question! What a wonderful first question. I think the feeling. This is gonna, to people that aren't in this business with us, this is gonna sound like garbage, but it's the truth. The feeling of finishing a song. Or even having an idea that sort of takes you with it. If you can stay open enough or stay with it long enough, stay focused. And obviously I'm a head full of bees. So the one time I maybe am calm is when I'm working on an idea and trying to let it write me and not, force it. When that thing starts happening, that is, I believe it's work. You got to put in the work. But if you set everything up just right and you can be present for that, you go on a ride like no other. And it's, people talk about flow. I know, athletes I've met and writers like yourself, you can completely lose track of time. And I got this weird theory that when that's happening, I think nothing bad is happening to you. I mean, you're not, no time is even left your time on the planet. For those few minutes, you are where you're supposed to be. So, what keeps me going is just the feeling. And, the well runs dry every now. Like Willie Nelson said, when it runs dry, that means you're supposed to be living your life. Just let it fill up. Don't question it.
That's cool.
I really like to try to write in the morning, even if it's just for a little bit. I try to keep doing that. And then the other thing is just, I think things that hit us, God, somebody said once, I don't know who it was, they said something like, if you're getting really depressed or miserable or you're worried about what you're supposed to do. Now, this is obviously a first world answer to a problem, but it's figure out what made you excited when you were about 12 or 13, and something adjacent to that is probably who you are.
Yeah,
and
that's interesting.
I find that silly first kiss, it's not silly to me, it was the whole world. My world got 3D when I watched Gene Simmons, Breathe Fire, and Paul Stanley. Stanley Eisen and Chaim Witz changed my life at Cobo Arena, and the Pontiac Silverdome, the venues around Detroit when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And then I'll wrap this up. I saw the thing that happened to me right after. And it's funny, Michael, only in the last few years did I realize that these two things, and then the stress about money is raised by a single parent, they are 100% what I've been chasing my whole life. It was being in a rock band, and then being in a rock band that's theatrical and loving film and TV music. I saw Queen's Flash Gordon as a little kid in the theater. That score and seeing music becomes so much more powerful with picture, and picture becomes the synesthesia of those things. I have never lost that feeling. Even now, if I turn on some show where they're building a tiny home, and I'm so far in the back you can't even hear me. I'm like, oh, I'm a part of this. It's great. It's great.
Gooding, could you just describe your music a little bit? I mean, I love your music, but I mean, until somebody goes and listens, they won't have any frame of reference, Well,
I appreciate it. We used to say, because of that film thing, we used to say like widescreen American rock, and we've left the American, got a little ethnocentric, but I felt like the idea was I came from, the Great Plains, and I was born in Detroit, so but raised in Kansas, and you can hear some of those Detroit influences. You can hear, somebody said to me once, like, you have a single coil voice, and I was like, that's not a nice thing to say, but what they were saying was, you pick up a little twang. So there's definitely rootsy instruments, but I think maybe the only thing that sets it apart a little different from some stuff, even though it's very guitar driven, is that a lot of it is in minor keys. I grew up, my mama was listening to Willie Nelson. I tracked hit, and I love Willie as a human being just as much as an incredible songwriter. But I tracked down Django Reinhardt. I started going back, and I think her playing classical piano around the house, all those beautiful harmonic minors and those things. I don't consider it dark. I consider it cathartic. But a lot of what I do is for my solo stuff, is in minor keys. And if anybody likes Deadwood, the score, and Ry Cooder and some of those dusty, rusty minor things.
Love that stuff, yeah.
I'm way off into that. So I guess Gothic Americana, Dark Americana, something like that.
I kind of understand what your music is now. Are you still touring?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of it now is for the charity. In a nutshell, I started a charity about 10 years ago to try to make financial literacy requirement in every high school in America. So if I spoke first, we'd be in trouble. But I play music. Music makes the medicine go down. I show a hypey film of all my placements.
No, cool.
And when you're in high school, you see somebody's got music on Iron Man. You figure they're hanging out with Robert Downey Jr. I tell them that it's not the
instant cred. Yeah,
instant cred. And then I actually tear down that same thing by saying I met some of my heroes. If they don't learn what you're going to learn today, go up like this, come down even faster. We talk about all those kind of fundamentals, but it's really about hope. It's about kids who are having to kind of break that chain where maybe their parents don't know this stuff, the community isn't talking about it, et cetera, et cetera. So I was doing about 100 schools a year on that. I've got it where we're starting to finally bus in some of the shows, and there's other artists on the charity now. So I'm not touring as much as I was, but something's wrong with me, Michael. I still love it like I did when I was 20.
I was going to ask you. I wanted to ask you about it because I have we can talk about Nashville in a minute, but I have a lot of friends that still tour, and they, it's and basically all of them would say you either love it, boy, or you hate it, and
there's no middle.
Yeah, there's not a lot of middle, and you have to because it's an absolute lifestyle, and I was surprised. One of my biggest surprises is that most all of them play golf. It's like,
man, what is Alice Cooper is what Fernet, and he's the biggest golfer in the world. Metallica plays golf. Like the hardest rockers are the golfers. My better half is amazing at golf. And I remember on our first date 17 years ago, I literally was like, you want to go play some, I can't believe I said this. I was like, you want to play miniature golf? And I wasn't putting down golf. I just said it was a date. And she's like, I do real golf. I ain't messing with none of this stuff. So I'll tell you, Michael, my long game and my short game is garbage. And some of my favorite composers, I remember in LA, they would do this, like the SCL would do these golf things. And I was like, I could never go because I could go be a caddy, but I didn't
play my first game till I was 40. So, I was like,
You
It's
are.
like, I said, what a waste of time, man. And then, of course, you hit one shot and you hit that little thing and it goes flying and you're like, oh my God, I think I'm a golfer. It's just really
I
weird.
love it. Well, there's got to be a Zen-like quality to it. I mean, again, one of my all-time heroes is Willie Nelson, and he said, "I write, pick, and sing, and I play golf. Which one do you want me to retire from? Like, this is a good life."
So tell me a little bit, Goody, about Nashville these days. I mean, how's the climate of entertainment there?
I got to tell you, man, this is where I'm letting you down, and I'm probably letting myself down even a little bit. I moved here from LA 7-8 years ago, and mostly because of that charity. All the tours a lot of the issues are in the South. A lot of our sponsors were on the South and on the East Coast, Raymond James, and even the folks from United Way Junior Achievement. They were kind of from the middle where the church started. I was getting the transmission falling out of the bread truck trying to drive to LA to all these markets. 80% of the markets are gettable from Nashville. That's why FedEx is in Memphis. They fly those planes in every night. Yep. It's close to population, but I don't get into the scene here as much as I should. My buddy Carter Halsey kind of keeps me, he's on the charity and I produced his last 3 records. He's kind of the one guy that I open the studio and do the background stuff for and will do anything he asks. He keeps me in the middle of everything because he is right in the middle of that. I played the Bluebird a few times. We did the Musicians Hall of Fame. I've been very fortunate. I went on WSM. I've seen some of the kind of old school institutional stuff that just still blows my mind. And the Bluebird, as you know, it's 55 people in a strip.
That's fun, man. That's a neat little place. Yeah, I love it.
And you still are like, all my heroes set in this place. But other than those things, I've been really lucky over the last few years. I don't write with a lot of people. I'm not saying I shouldn't. I'm just kind of one of those go to a dark room guys. And just because I'm still staying on the road this much, when I'm here, I'm usually trying to get the next thing right here and then run the businesses, keep the production music side going.
Hey, you know what? That makes total sense. I mean, I do have a lot of friends in Nashville, and there's that sense that when you move there, if you're a singer-songwriter, you do get into this little circuit of let's all write together, right?
Yes.
And there's a huge community that most people don't realize that has nothing to do with country. I mean, it's just
it's amazing.
It's kind of every kind of music you could imagine. And in your case, sounds like you've got enough going on that you're in a great place where the vibe is correct, but you don't have the time. And I've been there. I get that. That makes sense.
Well, I'm not trying to. I hate if I heard myself on this podcast and didn't see me and know that this is not something I would have said. I hate to say it, Michael. This isn't something I would have said well into my 30s. My cut my teeth and say yes to everything time was later than most people's because I stayed on the road almost nonstop in my 20s. I was ramen in the coffee pots, living out of a van. Yeah. And I was into my 30s till I finally moved to Los Angeles, young 30s. And all I did in LA was what I would be doing here if I was that age, which is say yes to everything, go to everything, keep notes on do all you can for other people. And that time in LA of grinding and joining everything I could, that I found my way, and I'm sure we'll get to this, to Adam Taylor and to production music and a way of life that allowed me to be financially stable enough to actually, after decades, start saying no to some things and focus on what I thought maybe I could do to give back. So I'm not trying to be cocky when I say that. I've I've kind of built this strange, wonderful life where I'm and it's, like any entrepreneur, there's the stressful moments. You better get up earlier than everybody. You better go to bed later than everybody if you want to keep doing what you want to do on this planet. But I between the charity and making the records and staying on the road, I don't go to as many song polls as I should. You said it beautifully. Americana, rock, blues, jazz, everything is in Nashville. It's a great country town, but it's all here. I wish I went out more, but you know how it is when you've been on the road, you're like, give me a book and I'm going to rewatch Newsroom and I'm going to bed at 9 o'clock.
One of the things that you do, and one of the bigger things that you do that allowed you some of the financial freedom to do other things, right? I was a commercial composer and made a really good living at it, but I was also an R&B artist. And, And I had at one point I had two music libraries, very large ones, and then they learned lesson 101 is you can make all this music, but by God, you better know how to market it. So we're still making money off of it, but we could have become very wealthy, and a lesson for another day. So okay, you have a shit ton of TV, film, and games, placements, right? And it's one of the last frontiers, I guess, for musicians. And most of them don't understand much about it at all. Yes, they know that, if I get my piece of music in a film, I can make some money. They don't understand that, it's a numbers game.
Yes.
You better have good representation for your music. You need to educate yourself about, and all of these other things. And it's not quite as easy. However, the opportunity is still there. So I thought you kind of uniquely qualified to talk about that piece.
Great.
That's really powerful and is available to them today. So I thought we might start by just talking about your music library, Kingdom 2. Sure. When did you have the idea? Yeah. Where did the name come from?
Okay. So I had a record. This is dating me, and that's fine. 1998. It was a record called Factory Blue. I was running around with my little platinum blonde hair and singing about the end of the world. And there was a song in there called Kingdom 2. The idea was, and I'm not trying to say it's not this Ray Kurzweil had anything, but I had this idea that someday I was really worried about the environment and animals and all this stuff. And I was learning in college about all these things that were happening. And I said, someday maybe they'll just be putting everything in a headset because we won't have nature. We'll just replace it because everything was just getting so. And of course, little do we know that how quickly that was all going to happen. But the Kingdom 2 was an idea that we would be trying to capture all this stuff. But my friends started joking. They were like, you should, call your company this because you keep taking everything that your band doesn't want to play and giving it to other music libraries, which folks, is the beautiful thing about, you can't be all things to everybody, but if you got a few things that maybe aren't, if I say to other people that are on the road, I was like, look, that there's a certain amount of, you need to put some bumpers up. I made this mistake in a lot of my career. If you don't have some parameters, somebody goes and buys a Big Mac and they like it. I'm vegetarian, but I'm going to use this Big Mac. If somebody likes a Big Mac and they come back and they go to McDonald's and they order it and they get a taco, what's going on? When you see the word gooding or whatever and you get a different record every time.
Yeah.
We don't have the luxury of, Bob Dylan gets to do that. Some people Prince got to do that a little bit after having a bunch of number ones. Yeah. But without any number ones, you got to stay in your lane. In production music, if you're not, as long as the quality is really high and what purpose you're serving, you understand how it works, how it goes, the way it builds, how it goes in the background of something, you can play it. You can play in some, playgrounds that you don't really get to in the band. So Kingdom 2 was almost like, this is the second world I get to live in where I get to do all this other stuff that isn't me on stage going, wee, Yeah. So, it started with that. I would say to people, you brought up a really great point. There's a lot. Making the music is really the first part. It's like they say, if you get a record deal or a sports contract, you just now started working. You think, I made it.
Time to go to work.
Yeah, you better get to work because that, as quick as you come up, you're gonna come down even faster. The thing I've noticed is the things that I think are gonna work for production music. We're not always great critics of ourselves. That's why you get a producer, you get somebody else to step in and tell you you've lost the button. The things that I think are wonderful sometimes don't make a dime. And the things that I do very quickly that I don't think too hard about, or when I go, I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to make just tremolo guitar and one thing. When I get myself in a lane, that's usually the stuff that makes some money. But I tell our composers, don't come in with, don't even give me this masterpiece that you're working. Go promote that. I try to get the $100,000 placement and whatever record deal's left. Go have fun with it. At the end of the day, if you've got enough material and it's high quality, and you understand some of the machinery of how production music works, if you stay in it long enough, there is a living to be made here. But part of the reason I have, 120 records sounds like a lot, but across many years and loving the studio, it's not crazy. I did some records for other people too, before I had my own catalog. But you really do have to keep making stuff. keep working.
So you, of this 120-ish albums,
Yeah.
is that all you, or is it artists that you've curated, or how did that work?
No, it's probably 130, but about 10 of them, I did half of the tracks with somebody else, so I called it 120. They're 100% me. Drums, bass, guitar, keys.
All those albums.
Yeah, everything. I mix. I
Boy,
recorded.
you are. I like. What's a much better word than ADD? Would you say you got flying inside your head?
Bees. Yeah, head full of bees, baby.
Wow, man, you were just. I listened to quite a bit of your music the other day, and you said something earlier, and everybody echoes this. I talked yesterday to Edwina. Do you know Edwina? Yeah, she's awesome.
Human being.
Yeah, and we were talking about just this part, about quality. It's got to be very high quality, and the fact that your music is that high quality and that you're engineering it, which I was an engineer as well, so sometimes that makes it a whole lot easier.
Sometimes it does.
But the fact
you're not fighting with anyone in the room. Yeah.
No, when you
just
need
your own insanity.
when I need to go back to that, like bar 17, I don't have to tell somebody, just go do it. But that's quite amazing that so much of this music is yours. Are you planning on adding other artists to Kingdom 2?
Oh yeah, we're at about record 290 right now, and I
had no idea.
Any records now, because I don't think anybody wants the CEO to be constantly putting in their own music. So I've slowed back a little, and also with the charity and the tour kind of picking up over the years, the touring. I'm not doing as much. I'm more kind of putting out solo records, for myself for the tours. But no, I got a guy named Mike Giffen, who I wouldn't have Kingdom 2 without him. Him and I actually ran some studios together in college, just putting the cartons on
how fun, yeah.
Borrowing, begging, and stealing, and buying gear. Yeah. You record a punk band, you got $300 for the whole record. I get to buy a new compressor. We came up in those days. It was off. When I first started living out of the van and touring, Mike moved into a little house in Lawrence, Kansas. We both went to, we're in the KU area for a little while. I dropped out of college to join the circus, but it was great for me.
Different story. Yep.
Another story. He was cranking out records, and he had 30 or 35, but he hadn't found a library to work with.
Wow.
He moved to LA when my wife and I went out there. We all lived together for a little while, and he had a little room, and I had a little room out in the valley, and we came up with 90 records and convinced Adam's crew at APM to pick us up.
That's where I was headed with all this.
That's where I got started, was because I had other artists. And of course, you know this, Michael. You've done it. I've done everything I've done. When you're making music, when you're composing, you end up with a lot of leftover stuff.
Yeah.
And it took forever, but I finally got a job with a commercial agency that kind of brokered to some composing. I'd done CNN International, A&E, because I had tons of cues.
Yep.
And so between that, the stuff that the band didn't want to play, and Mike, we had enough to get started. And we've probably got 30 writers on the catalog right now.
So you curate, you find artists that you think fit well, or your kind of partner does. If I had a library and it was fantastic, would I come calling one of you guys?
It's so interesting. We've thought about that because we just now, I'm sure you know John Clifford, he was with Universal BMG. Yep. He's got a consultancy now called True Road, where he fills in ex-US distributors for people. I was very lucky. I've been working with John for a year now. We are direct now with every territory in the world. So APM, my favorite folks, I've only been with them in North America. 12 years.
Well, that's what they do, is North America.
They're incredible. Yep. So US, Canada. We are at a size now where we might look at that, but we're really trying to make sure. And we've all been in these deals with somebody that they grow so fast they forget about the people that dance with the one that run you.
Yeah.
I'm really, most of the artists that I've signed are people that I've either toured with or met on the road, or I had some sense of them as people that I kind of knew, kind of how the wheels turn. We're just trying to be really careful that we're really going for quality over quantity, especially with, I don't think anything replaces the human touch, but the amount of material I think it will get quicker for people to make material with AI.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Really make sure that we can separate ourselves. But yeah, I mean, we would. Right now, we're so focused on getting the overseas stuff working again because we were with BMG, but rebuilding that.
Smart. I mean, I know where you're headed with this, which is, we'd like to consider that, but you're focusing now on the part that my libraries never did, which is we want to get the marketing and business right. Because I always tell people libraries and music is like, it's like selling donuts, man. You know, it's the music business. You know, it's the business. The music could be a donut. And that's what's burned me a few times when I was younger because I didn't understand that simple lesson, and you're concentrating on it, which makes total sense.
Well, it's so much fun making the record, and you get done, you want to start another record. Managers over the years, I've had some great managers, and I love the guy I'm with now. I'm so lucky. Man out of Los Angeles, Ryan Romanesco is incredible, and he's worked with some of my heroes on guitar. I'm so honored to be with this guy. But he's really funny because, it's the business is what takes the time. The business is also the only reason they're going to hear the music. Like it or not, just being, we all say, be great or go home. Don't bore us, get to the chorus. Even a great chorus isn't enough. Even being great on stage isn't enough. There's so much stuff out there. So, I would consider that. And I am, I'll give it, if somebody's trying to submit something, I want to give you the guy who handles that and brings it to me. But right now, the doors are a little bit closed while we make sure we're building it just right for overseas and making the right decision.
By the way, Adam Taylor, for everybody that doesn't know, he's the president of Associated Production Music, APM, a lovely man and an incredible business. And he did say to me, he said, I asked him to send me, I wanted to talk to a couple of business people, a couple of artists, and he goes, well, you absolutely have to talk to Gooding. He's one of the most amazing guys out there. He's so just, he loves you. So,
you know what that means to me, because I would, charity, you said you got to a place where you can make enough money, you could do some of these things. If I wouldn't have met Adam 2002, I'm not sure I would even have the charity, because in the bacon and beans day, cooking ramen in the coffee pots, I didn't have anything coming in. I was, by the way, too, Adam was very patient with me, Mike, and this is a message to the composers. 100% of zero is zero, folks. I grew up with Prince. Everything Prince did, I thought was the coolest thing in the world. He had Slave on his face. I was like, oh man, you can never get rid of your publishing. So Adam offered me to start writing for catalogs. The amount of records in 2002 versus now, it was a whole other planet. I didn't go to work for a catalog for 6 or 7 years. I told Adam, I really appreciate it, but I've got to hold my publishing. I'm going to get a record. Man, if I listened to him at the beginning, oh man, that would have been a whole different thing. But I'm very grateful for everything I have, and I owe a lot to him. He gave me some of my first really good advice and my first business. So I'm very grateful to Adam Taylor. Yeah.
Just a couple things, other things I have to ask you about before I let you go.
Please.
Of all your life's endeavors, to this point anyway, what's the thing you're most proud of?
Man. I hope this is the truth. I think that my close friends and my better half know who I am. I think, and that means I am a head full of bees. It's either, I'm lucky. I'm not bipolar, but I definitely run. When I'm going, and when I'm done, I'm done. But I think I have really tried. Like everybody, had some stuff happen as a kid that kind of sent me for a loop. I dealt with some anxiety attacks, different things in my 20s. I've worked really hard to get good advice. I've worked hard to work on myself. I worked hard to read about trying to get better. I hope that I've been with my lady 17 years now. I got a little 2-year-old now. I would hope that my family, late bloomer. I would hope that my family, that when I go down for the dirt nap, they can go, that was a good person, and he built something for us, and we're safe and we're okay. I don't want my son to worry about his mother the way I worried about my single mama. I'm hoping I broke the chain on a few things. I would say that, and then I'm really proud that I get to do this charity. But all this stuff happened because of other people. Now, granted, I put myself in those places. I tried to get out there, but I hired people smarter than me to make this a 501c3. I got a great board of people. My buddy Carter is a brilliant artist. He's just as good or better at me at talking about these issues. He went through some of them too. I guess the first thing here's the answer finally. I surrounded myself with people that would allow me to figure out, who I was and try to make a little bit of a difference. So.
And all of them is in effect.
Rapid fire. This is going to go quick. Quick answers,
Any
man.
Your questions could have been a whole podcast. You're really great at that. I can't wait to dive into more of your work too, man. What do you got? Let's go lightning round.
All right, here we go. Favorite thing about touring?
Oh man. Well, seeing new places, and that feeling at the end of a good show. You got ones where you're killing yourself, but the energy at the end of a good show. Yeah.
Good deal. Best day of writing music ever?
Oh man, that's fantastic. Fort Collins, Colorado. I was in this little just shack of a place, but it was one of those times where the temperature was perfect. I was unscheduled, mostly because I was broke, but I had nothing to do, and it was one of those weird days where 4 or 5 songs came out, and I didn't even know what it was. I've been chasing that day for 15 years, Michael.
Wow,
but I remember it like yesterday. Yeah,
that's cool. AI, good or bad?
Both. If they'll start, I better be careful here, Michael.
Yep.
They'll start spending some of their time on things that actually help people instead of replace things that give us meaning. I don't know why the first thing we're doing with all of this incredible. NVIDIA had more money market cap in one day than the entire stock market in the UK.
Yeah.
The power of everyone piling in to make a profit. One of the things that works about capitalism, you can get people inspired to go after something.
Yep.
Let's work on healthcare. Let's work on kids who need help. Let's use it to solve problems where people are suffering. Replacing writers and artists and something where someone gets to feel like they have meaning and purpose. Why would that be one of the first things you want to get rid of? I just don't understand the trajectory of it, what it's focused on. But I think like all new technologies, we're going to find some amazing, beautiful things. And I think there's going to be some fallout that we're not ready for. Gotcha.
A hobby not related to music.
I am super dork on reading. I didn't show you the rest of the books out in the sheds. I love, and I won't go to a Kindle, and no one will ever buy my books back because I highlight and I love reading. I write in journals a lot. A hobby, golly, what is going on?
Maybe that's it, man. Reading.
Yeah, I mean, I know film is kind of related to what I do, but when I'm just watching something and enjoying it, and the score's working, the old saw. If you're thinking about the score, it's a terrible score.
Yeah,
I love watching movies and documentaries, and I love reading. And I'm getting into stuff that my kid's doing, like everybody. I know when I wasn't a father, you're like, oh, don't bore me with your kid. But I think I'm going to pick up some fun hobbies. I don't want him to be a musician. I want him to do whatever he wants.
Yeah,
but I'm seeing him good at. His mother's good at a million things that I'm not. When I see him taking to something, I start trying to learn about it. I think I'll pick up some hobbies that the little boy's doing. So it'll be fun.
Cool. Last rapid fire. Favorite place you've ever traveled?
It's crazy because I love. I'm making all these answers too long.
Oh, that's fine.
We're getting out of the country the first couple times. I did some tours for 2 bar backs and a cricket through the UK. I played for nobody out there the first times, but I went back on some publishing stuff. I got to go to Berlin. I got to go to Amsterdam. This is all later in life, but those trips were amazing. I went to Africa once and stayed there for a couple weeks. I think you have to get away from America to understand where you're at and what you have and be grateful for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Whatever that Mark Twain thing, if you travel, nobody's a stranger. You're not afraid of people. It's just very good to get away from what you think is the world. But I will say, I love the Great Plains. I like some of those weird drives through the middle of Wyoming and Montana. There's Tom said, I like open places where gives me time to dream. And Tom White said that, Nebraska, it's just those endless highways, man. You can start hearing the spinning your own wheels a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Best advice that you might, or some advice that you might have for people that are entering the industry. Yeah. Maybe something that'll make their journey a little bit easier.
Man, so great. Off the cuff, you have to find there's a blend between working really, really hard, and at the beginning you have to say yes to almost anything, unless you know, trust your gut. If the person's a crook, if something's ringing a bell that's wrong, it's probably wrong. Most of us have a pretty good internal that stuff. You're gonna have to say yes to almost everything. While you're doing that, you also don't have to be all things to all people. You don't have to chase whatever is popular at that moment. I mean, production music is a great thing in that you see, all of a sudden, hip hop replaced all the rock stuff in sports, which is great. I had a lot of rock music, but now I got some cats that are great at hip hop. They're getting that work. But some things are kind of timeless and they'll come back around. If you're doing some things, even if it's just for a couple hours a day that aren't making money, but they're truly who you are, and you can show the work. People they like to understand why you do something. I think Simon Sinek said this: the reason for your work is almost as important as the work itself. If you'll do something that is really true to you, it may take a while, but somebody will find that. So it's really that thing of you have to work hard, and you have to probably say yes to some stuff you don't want to say yes to. Life is hard. You're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to diversify. But keep a little bit for yourself. That would be my advice. And then the last thing I would say is, and it doesn't have to be me or my rants or what I'm doing with the charity. 2 books just got written by people who I respect a great deal. John Hope Bryant, who's one of my mentors, I just interviewed him for our documentary. He wrote a book called Financial Literacy for All. I don't care if you're entering the music business. If you are a human being in the Western world, go buy this book. Scott Galloway, The Algebra of Wealth. Go buy that book.
I love him.
That man is brilliant. Yeah. And unlike me, he takes huge ideas and puts them in a sentence. I take your sentence and blow it out and have a good time with it. I like what he's doing. I will say this. I'll close with this on that question. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, and, I've talked to almost, 250,000 students in these things. Everybody is going to be an overnight success. Everybody's going to be a star. Everybody's going to get it, the romance industries. You need financial literacy no matter what, but especially if you want to do something that is you living by the sword and dying by the sword, it is probably going to take a long time. And during that road, you do not want the devil to get his due and wake up at 35 or 40, 50, 60 and go, man, I never funded an IRA. Man, I didn't have anything put away. Life doesn't get easier, and the only way I've been able to keep some joy and do some of this is that even though I was a super late bloomer and a super late starter, did, at least in my 30s, start really learning these principles. Michael, what a pleasure. Thank you.
You have a heart, a huge heart, a really brilliant mind, a scattered mind, which is really cool. Extremely creative mind. And man, it was really a pleasure talking to you today. I hope you have a wonderful day for the rest of the day. Go play with your 2-year-old. Don't worry. I will be the one that's back in touch with you in a month or two, and we'll do that one about money. Every artist needs to understand money. Yes.
I look forward to it, Michael. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, man.